Let's go ahead and switch over to another topic that blows my fucking mind. I saw this yesterday when it was posted, and I was like, ain't no fucking way. So it says Facebook and Instagram to temporarily allow calls for violence against Russians, just in general against Russians. And I'm thinking to myself, there's no fucking way they're actually going to temporarily allow calls for violence in the first place, much less against Russians in general. Just generally speaking, Russians. So then I did this. And the title was actually or the headline was actually different. It's the title, but, you know, headline, whatever. So this says, Facebook this is updated, but we'll get to the old ones. Don't worry, because they're in the comments. Facebook allows war posts urging violence against Russian invaders. They actually reworded this shit. It's so fucking irritating that this is allowed. I mean, because everybody read the wrong messages and then it was changed. I hate this shit. So Meta platforms will allow Facebook and Instagram users in some countries to call for violence against Russians and Russian soldiers. Still problematic in this sense. And again, still problematic in this sense. So against Russians and Russian soldiers in the context of the Ukraine invasion. According to internal emails seen by Reuters on Thursday, in a temporary change to its hate speech policy. We're beyond hate speech. We're at violent rhetoric. We're at violent speech, right? Speech inciting violence. Also, the social media company is also temporarily allowing some posts that call for death to Russian President Vladimir Putin or Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko, according to internal emails to its content moderators. As a result of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, we have temporarily made allowances for forms of political expression that would normally violate our rules, like violent speech, such as death to the Russian invaders. We still won't allow credible calls for violence against Russian civilians, a Meta spokesperson said in a statement. The calls for the leaders' deaths will be allowed unless they contain other targets or have two indicators of credibility, such as the location or method, one email said, in a recent change to the company's rules on violence and incitement. What the fuck is going on? Do we see the problem with this? First off, they're saying that we're going to allow a temporary change to hate speech. We're beyond hate speech here. This is not about hate speech. This is about violent speech. Same thing down here. They say we're temporarily making allowance for forms of political expression. That's not a form of political expression. Picking a side in the war is a form of political expression. Calling for the death of people is not political expression. It is violent speech. That's it. And what's the problem with allowing any form of violent speech on a social media platform? Even general calls for violence or death, even to some actual bad actors. What you're doing, like Chicken said, is you're fueling the fire. Not even the direct fire, but the future fires. Because now, what people are going to start seeing is these calls for violence and death. And while they maybe wouldn't have said them themselves, they're seeing them, which means they're being desensitized to them, which is another step closer to them actually making them in the future. That it's just a way to literally raise everyone's tensions in a general sense, psychologically, right? Raise everyone's aggression, raise everyone's level of violence just a little bit in the broad sense. That's problem number two, because we already addressed that. They're bullshitting when they talk about hate speech and political expression. This is violent speech. some people are not willing to admit or don't understand that violent rhetoric leads to violent action. That's like, it's a one-to-one pipeline. Violent rhetoric leads to violent action. Even in situations of war, we should not be allowing additional violence. I would argue, especially in the midst of war, we should not be allowing additional violence. That's ridiculous. What a short-sighted move on Meta's part. This is a part of my issue with this tweet. Is first off, it's inaccurate. If you read the article, or if you had read the article originally, because it didn't say the same thing. It actually, like, the article was a little bit more careful in its wording than the tweet was. And now I'm going to argue that the article is basically just as misworded and irresponsible as the tweet is. Because it says, Meta platforms will allow Facebook and Instagram users in some countries to call for violence against Russians. That's the same generality that I took issue with on the tweet. And Russian soldiers in the context of the Ukraine invasion. Here's a part of the problem there. I don't know if any of you have been paying attention, but there have been Russian soldiers who didn't actually know that they were being sent to Ukraine because a war had begun at Putin's direction. They didn't know that. They actually thought they were being sent off for training operations. And when they found out in Ukraine that they were the part of the aggressor in an unprovoked attack, they surrendered. And they said, I want nothing to do with this. I didn't know that's what we were doing. I'm not attacking Ukraine. And they surrendered. So now we're going to allow for people to generally call for violence against all Russian invaders, including the ones that do have a heart. They just don't realize the situation they're in. This is why nuance matters, by the way. I think the Russian soldiers who didn't know better probably wouldn't appreciate calls for violence against them. In general, it's just a stupid, short-sighted thing to allow for violent speech on social media of all fucking places. I will go so far as to say this. You may not like it. I'm going to say it anyways. If you want to say fuck all Russians, fuck all Russian soldiers, and fuck Vladimir Putin in a one-on-one conversation at home with your family or a friend or something like that, I take a little bit of issue with it personally because nuance, as I'm stating, but that's different, right? Have your fucking conversation. Free speech is one thing, in the private context. What a lot of people don't know is, and this is where my legal experience actually does come in handy, is we don't have an unfettered right to free speech. And when we analyze whether certain forms of speech should be allowed, our courts have carved out exceptions that are called time, place, and manner restrictions. So it's to say, for example, you want to talk about time and place, okay? If I say, even emphatically, around a bonfire, fire, that's okay. If I say it in the exact same manner, but I say it at a different time and in a different place, such as a theater or an airport, that's not allowed. That's restricted. You can't do that. So there are time, place, and manner restrictions on what would otherwise be free and protected speech. I would argue that social media is never the place. The place. Never the place, never the time, never the manner in which to make violent speech like this. Just shouldn't be. Because this type of violent speech really doesn't have any social value. That is a huge consideration that the courts look to, is what is the social value of the speech? There's no social value in calling for violence or death to Russian invaders and Putin on social media platforms. None. No social value to that. I pointed out, people of Twitter, Please read the article. This tweet is irresponsibly misworded. And then I also said, and I don't know why it shows up late, but hold on. Where are all the damn... Where's my other reply? Hold on, I gotta be able to go to this. Ah, shit, come on. Yes, this one. I don't know why that didn't show up. I went on and said, and for the record, I disagree with the notion that any calls for violence or death on social media are acceptable, war or not. Meta's move here, again, please read the article, is also irresponsible. There was a response on this one. I could have sworn. But let's go back to this one. Someone says, how's it misworded? Good question. It is missing critical qualifiers such that anyone who reads the tweet without doing any further reading might think they'll be in the clear to call for violence against any Russian. And again, to be clear, I disagree with all calls for violence on or death on social media, war or not. I always look to like see who the fuck, like how many followers, you know, is this a real person or is it just some random like troll account? Said they reworded the headline. This is what it said originally. Facebook temporarily allows posts calling for violence against Russians or Putin's death. Yeah, that's still a problem. And then she says, not misleading at all compared to what the original headline was. So I said, I wasn't referring to the headline of the article. I said, quote, this tweet is irresponsibly worded, which it is. And then Jazz, 14 followers, 795 following, BRB bio, posts clown face. Oof, you got me there. Solid contribution to the discourse, you fucking loser. Here we go. I'm not sure their new headline makes it any better. Facebook allows Ukraine war posts urging violence against invading Russians, Putin. Okay, so that was that. Nick says, I did, and you need to read it closer. They're playing word games. Quote unquote, credible calls for violence against Russian civilians is still not allowed. What the fuck is a credible call? How does one address the credibility of a call for something? It's not a threat. Technically, I could have also said, I think you need to read it closer because they specifically said the things that would lend credibility that they're looking for. The calls for the leaders' deaths will be allowed unless they contain other targets or have two indicators of credibility, such as the location or method, one email said. That's how you address the credibility of a call for something. And then he says it's not a threat. Yes, it is. And then I just said, I think you need to read my tweet closer. Because again, just like the first person I was talking about, I wasn't talking about credible calls for violence. I was talking about the wording of the tweet. I said this tweet is irresponsibly misworded. Do we now hold synonymous the tweet with the article that is linked in the tweet? Are those now the same thing? Am I an actual boomer? Because I swear to God, I said the tweet. This is the... Let's see, what other fun responses did we get? This was a good one, that's correct. 99% sure that was the intent of Facebook and Instagram? I don't know, maybe. Here's another person who just doesn't understand. Or does and doesn't care. It doesn't matter what the qualifiers are. The general public will see this as a symbol to target all Russians, including Russian Americans. That's my problem. It's what happened to Chinese Americans when COVID first came about. True. It absolutely does matter what the qualifiers are, I said. It's about harm reduction. Anyone confused about that? And again, to be clear, I disagree with all calls for violence or death on social media, war or not. Your original tweet was people read the article. You wrote that because people went off the headline. No, I didn't. That's why the quantifiers, nice. Quantifiers, by the way, are not the same thing as qualifiers. Let me point this out for you, just in case you don't know. A qualifier is something that further clarifies something. A quantifier is something that is an expression of an amount of something or a volume of something. It's not the same thing. Qualifiers and quantifiers are two markedly different things. And I'm not even going to engage further with this because I'm not going to start an argument with someone who's saying stupid shit like this. That's why the quantifiers are meaningless. All the quantifiers in the world will accomplish nothing because they will go off the headline and that will only create hate to all Russians. You're both getting my point and missing it at the same time. Here's a good one. So this person chimes in with the wonderful, no one listens to you, bro. Who do you think you are? You think I'm going to respond to that fucking tweet? No one listens to you, bro. Who the fuck do you think you are? Solid contribution, again, to the discourse. You fucking idiot. Like, you couldn't have just kept your mouth shut there? By the way, I wasn't even aggressive or mean. I said, people of Twitter, please read the article. I didn't say, hey, dumb fucks, read the article. I was just, these are words of caution. Please read the article. This tweet is irresponsibly misworded. And then you got to come back with an attack. No one listens to you, bro. Who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Fuck off. I'm not going to gratify this bullshit, stupid, brain-dead tweet or comment with a response. Oh, there was also, yeah, there was a quote tweet. Actually not. It's a call for violence. It is call for, actually not hashtag. It is call for, like the fir tree. It is promoting neo-Nazi death squads. What the fuck are you saying? What the fuck are you saying? So I said, yes, Reuters' tweet is irresponsibly worded. Also, if you refer to my subtweet to this one you QRT'd, quote retweeted, I disagree not only with the irresponsible wording of Reuters' tweet, but also any calls for violence or death on social media. And then there was the fuck up, whatever. So then I go here. He quote tweeted it again. Facebook have openly chosen to aid and abet violence, be it on soldiers, by non-combatants, or Moussay of head of state. As such, Mark Zuckerberg committed crime of interfering with foreign policy. I mean, I don't necessarily take issue with that. I'm still not sure what the fuck you're responding to. I don't know why you quote retweeted me, or quote retweeted my tweet to say this. It has nothing to do with what I said. And then he goes on to say, if we had a president instead of a demented puppet, Mark would be under interrogation now. You're so stupid. You're so stupid. You know why he's not under interrogation right now? Because the policy change doesn't apply to the United States, you fuck. You have to read, which was the whole point of my first tweet. Read the article. Holy fuck. Wait, there was also, hold on, there was an it is. I have to find the it is. Here we go. I don't know why, yeah. Yeah, I don't know why this didn't show up. This MAGA Trump 2024. Dude, it's Twitter. Twitter and media is useless garbage. So I said, dude, if only it were that simple. He says, it is. I said, no, it isn't. I've already explained to all of you why it's not that simple. You can sit here like the genius that you apparently like genuinely think you are by saying Twitter and media is useless garbage. That's a stupid, vapid statement that like there's nothing to do with that, okay? Like, not everything on Twitter and in the media is useless garbage, okay? First and foremost. So what you said isn't even correct. But the whole point of what I'm saying in my tweets is you guys need to read this and not just be reactionary idiots for the sake of harm reduction, okay? Read shit clearly, because I guarantee you there are going to be fucking people in the United States that are like now calling for the death of Russians who didn't read the fucking article and they're going to get themselves banned. Oh, man. And by the way, not only are you going to get banned, but you're making things worse because you're just putting out more violent statements into the world, which is obviously not a good thing in the long run. Oh, man. Anyways, you get the point, right? Don't do that. Regardless of which country you live in, do not post calls for violence against anybody on social media. Do not post calls for death against anybody on social media. I don't care if it's specific or general. Just don't do that. It's not a good thing, okay? We all want to do good things for the world, right? Don't fucking do that. And whoever the execs are at Meta that decided to make this policy change, temporary as it may be, are fucking terrible people and or stupid people. I'd be willing to bet it's not so much stupid as just terrible. It's more of that we're going to stoke the fire because it's going to bring more engagement to our platform at the cost of we'll find out. Jesus Christ.